Welcome to the Misano World Circuit on the Adriatic coast of Italy. Huge thunderstorms last night, but here at the circuit today it is absolutely beautiful weather conditions. We're all set for the first of two qualifying sessions. 22 cars coming out to play, and as you can see, the circuit looks absolutely at its very best indeed. I'm Bruce Jones, joined by John Watson in the commentary box. What do we expect today?
Well, we're going to see something might be surprising, largely because of the rain that we had last night, contrasting what we've got today. Track temperature of 28.2, ambient 27.4, humidity low. So what I'm saying about what happened last night is the track not only was washed, it was hosed down. It was the heaviest rain I think I've ever seen anywhere in Europe. So the track will be quite green, and for everybody who was on track yesterday evening, going out now, the track will be again quite different because there have been other categories on circuit. The rubber, it will be going down, but it will be a new experience for the first drivers who go out on track. They'll be saying, well, my car doesn't feel like it felt last evening when the track was in the process of finally drying.
But as we can see, beautiful, absolutely stunning weather, fine weather clouds. Just had a shot of Dennis Bulatov there. He's been brought into one of the ASP Mercedes. He's joining Nicolo Jamin. It's normally Felix Sarayas, but he couldn't manage to get her. I believe I don't know if it was visa problems or what we were told yesterday, John.
I'm not sure. I think it was a little bit of sort of like the rain. It was unclear. The point is that what we've got today is a stunning racetrack. Conditions are, I would say, as close to perfect as you could ever wish for in Misano. There is a little bit of wind blowing, which is taking the peak out of the ambient temperature. Nevertheless, looking back what happened last night in free practice 2, to get a gauge for what might be a time that would put you towards the front. Quickest lap was actually done by Kelvin van der Linde in the attempt to racing Audi R8, 134.2, and that was 0.6 of a second faster than Frank Pereira, who is this year in a Lamborghini, last year in an Audi, previously in Mercedes last year, previously in an Audi, and he's been through the whole range of manufacturers.
Yeah, well, if they keep bringing in new manufacturers, then he can keep on trying ones. We have a new car, the back of that pack there, 5 cars sitting waiting to go on the circuit, yellow and red. Car number 21, Audi Sport Slovakia, father and son combination, Jerko Malczarek and his son Christian. Great to have them on board. They hope to be here from the start of the season, but they're here for round 3. They missed Zolder and Brands Hatch coming out to play, and we'll see how they fare. But obviously what they wanted yesterday was as much track time as possible. We had those 2 sessions, but the difference between them was 20 seconds in terms of track speed. So what they learnt in the slower one clearly will be somewhat limiting for them.
Yeah, I mean, the conditions when they did finally get on track were a wet track going to dry, but 20 seconds is the gap between a dry lap and a drying lap time. So not a huge amount to be learned. The rain that fell yesterday was of biblical proportions. I mean, the paddock, some of the hospitality was seen floating towards the coast. I don't know if ever was retrieved or not, but it was just unbelievable. But 24 hours down the road, there we are looking at an idyllic racetrack, perfect conditions. Drivers all set to go out for their first 20-minute session. And of course, these times will then be the times will be allocated to the start driver for the first of the 2 events, the 1-hour event, which will start here later in the evening.
Well, it was interesting we saw that number 2 Audi sitting at the exit of the pit lane, because that's the car that's taken the pole position for the opening races, both at Zolder and Brands Hatch. Dries van Tor and Will Stevens. To make it 3. Lamborghini seem to be swinging back into the battle this season. Had a slightly tentative start. Balance performance being altered, not necessarily in their favour, but it seems the form is coming back to the team. But again, the circuits we've raced on, there's very little similarity between the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit and here at the Misano World Circuit, John.
Yeah, I mean, there is a continuing adjustment in the balance performance, but literally it can be at a weekend. And whether it was in Paul Ricard, there were small adjustments made one way or the other to try and keep the pack as closely matched as possible. And thinking back to the 6 hours of Paul Ricard, I can't remember a race so competitive from the front to the back. What we're going to see here, hopefully, will be equally competitive as we look at the rear of the 63 Lamborghini. So I'm not that it'll be, just waiting to see who will be taking the start for that car, whether it be Mirko Bortolotti or Christian Engelhardt, as the cars now make their way down the pit lane onto the track. So just under 20 minutes of the session remaining. So it'll probably be a couple of laps, come in, have a think about it, and then start doing the hard work.
Yeah, I think particularly in light of the limited track time, or limited useful track time they had yesterday, there's a lot still to be explored and discovered. There's the yellow and red Audi that's new to the championship this weekend. Great to have them on board, as we said. The Maltarex father and son. So 16 corners around the lap here at the Misano World Circuit. Your chance if you've never seen the circuit before, that's the kink straight that runs sort of opposite the paddock. Go to the tight left-hander called Quercia.
Yeah, it's a part of the racetrack. We've seen passes. You're trying to dive down the inside, and it's again like anywhere in the racetrack, anywhere around the world. If you're not up alongside the car fair and square, then inevitably there will be some kind of misunderstanding, put it that way. But it's a fun racetrack, if you could call any racetrack fun, because it isn't particularly long, just 4.2 kilometers. We've got 16 corners in total. Final onto the pit straight, ironically called Misano. It is the circuit that is now named in memory of Marco Simoncelli, the great Italian motorcyclist, tragically lost his life some years ago in Sepang in Malaysia. But a very popular and very liked personality, character, and of course a great competitor and a great motorcyclist.
Where you're seeing the cars now, looking at the number 37 BMW, is as they go down to turns 13 and 14. From turn 10, it's a wonderful long kink straight. But as you can see on this lap, everyone's just getting the heat into their tyres. So the two Audis that were first and second out of the pit lane, number 2 ahead of number 3 going down into the first corners. They're not doing the pit visit that John talked about. Will Stevens, of course, he remembers the meeting here from 12 months ago, not with a great deal of fondness, because the first race held in the dark. We had a big pile-up on the first lap, and Will was right in the thick of it. But this afternoon, he's having a very good season, chopping and changing between racing in the World Endurance Championship. He's just come back from Le Mans last weekend, back into the cars. I think he almost prefers driving these GTs.
Well, I think the thing with the GT and the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championships, the sprint in particular is a sprint. It is a flat-out 1 hour with a mandatory pit stop. The endurance vary from 3 to 6 to 24 hours. So it's a different discipline. Also, having said that, albeit at Paul Ricard, it was an undoubted 6-hour sprint, but it's a slightly different approach. So here you've got to really focus on grid position above all. That's what you're here to try and achieve and do the best for yourself, for your team. So Will Stevens, if he can get that number 2 Audi, a lap time that would be currently fastest in first and second sectors, it's only in the first flying lap. Nobody has completed yet a full-on flying lap, so Will Stevens will be the first to give us that. And as I say that, Alex Ribeiro's in the number 1, the sister car, is actually now quickest overall Sector 1 and Sector 2. So it will be almost by the car, particularly, and it's notable, I think, that the Audis in general are much more to the fore here this weekend in Misano than we've seen in some of those circuits so far this season.
Now, one issue that often raises its head around the circuits that we visit is track limits. As you can see, we just saw the shot there of a lot of the drivers going out, but not too wide out to the final corner, turn 16, known as Misano. But through the course of the races, we'll see their tyres starting to go off, and we'll see them. Some people inevitably will be pinged for going out over the curbs. That's one of the corners where we have to look out. They're just about staying within the confines. Was Michael Meadows, the Lamborghini behind, certainly not doing so at all. All 4 wheels beyond the white line. So the stewards may be getting to see some of these drivers and take a few times away. But right now, it's the track conditions, John mentioned earlier, still very little rubber down on the circuit. The second session, which comes after this one, will be necessarily, I would suggest, that bit quicker. But right now, they're just trying to find where the limits are. Fastest now, Alex Ribeiro, it's 1 minute 34.926 seconds. That's pretty much within just over half a second down on their best time in the second practice session yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that's for first flying lap. That's a pretty respectable first flying lap effort. So Michael Meadows on board in the 88 Mercedes, co-driven, of course, by Raffaele Marcello, who is unquestionably one of the most impressive drivers in the field. Michael Meadows, a more, might say, calm personality compared to Raffaele Marcello, who, to describe him as the excitable Italian would be a misjustice. He's not an excitable Italian, he's just very exciting to watch. So Michael Meadows fastest in that second sector, so very shortly coming up to completion of a flying lap. So 88 currently showing 7th quickest overall. Frank Pereira's now gone quickest at 134.7. Will Stevens second, Alex Ribeiro's third, but where will Michael Meadows? He goes quickest, 134.660. So the time's creeping down within the space of a couple of laps to the very quickest time that we saw last evening when the track was at its driest after that horrendous afternoon.
Yeah, well, the 60s, well, it's the 19 Lamborghini that's been knocked off the top spot, but the sister car, the 63, starting to stretch its legs, and we will see this car is one we expect to see at the very top end. At the moment, it's the very bottom end. It's on our second timing screen, Christian Engelhardt, but when he slots this lap together, having had a slow first flyer as he was bedding himself in through the final corner. This is turn 16, Misano. There was the white line, and it was very much to the left of the car, John. Yeah. So this is the sort of lap I was talking about.
Yeah, the exit turn 16 has been viewed slightly maybe differently because I think they had this discussion, in fact, 1 year ago. And in fact, Christian Engelhardt, just as we watch, has now gone fastest overall. Frank Pereira has now eclipsed that down.
This is the one. This is Perez Companc, Ezekiel Perez Companc in the sister car, the all-green Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini. So it's Lamborghinis 1 and 2. No, it isn't. It's Lamborghinis 1 and 4. It's number 14. Albert Costa has got the Lexus, new to our championship this year, up into second place. And third place is the other Lexus in the hands of Norbert Siedler. So early days here at the Misano World Circuit, and it seems the RCF sits on the track very well indeed. Second and third fastest at the moment.
Well, that's a significant improvement on what we saw in yesterday's. Quite a different racetrack. Paul Ricard, the very long straight dominating the French circuit. There's no long straight here. It's a much more and that's an unexpected. That's and coming through turns and into the gravel. So just about gets that car recovered. Santaloc Racing, Simon Gachet.
Well, it was good of him to show us all of his sponsors' names, but that was quite a catch after it got away from him, and I think the fact got away is probably the phrase that goes with us. So what we have at the moment is Ezekiel Perez Companc, 1 minute 34.297 seconds, fastest by 12 one-thousandths of a second from this car, number 14, and the 14, well, not its best first part of the lap, but the second part is an improvement. So is this going to go top? But certainly we've been very impressed indeed with Emil Frey Lexus Racing. They've just settled in. They started developing the car last year and have been a major addition. And I think some really unheralded driver pairings, I must say.
Well, they've got very strong driver pairings, but really the standout aspect of the Lexus is the pace of improvement, the way that the team have taken the car and moved it forward in the course of basically the first half. We're just coming up to the end of the first half of a 10-race sprint and endurance championship. So this has been a very, very impressive engineering debut for Lexus and for Emil Frey Racing.
Well, we've had one lap eliminated. That was for the 114 Lexus, Norbert Siedler. So that dropped him from third down to 13th. Car 82 has had a spin as well, which is the third of the Lamborghinis from Grasser Racing Team, Loris Hazemans and Frank Pereira. So that is not at the sharp end of the chart at the moment. Hazemans down in 10th place, so just in the top half, 22 cars out to play. The target time, 1 minute 34.297 seconds. Not as much green on our timing screen, not so many improvements, and a very big off-track run there from the 66 Tempto Racing Audi, shared by Steyn Schotthorst and Kelvin van der Linde. So that will be that lap eliminated from the time chart. Steyn at the moment is in 4th place. There it is, the grey Audi with the red and white flashes. In the background you can see the Pro-Am Ferrari of Carlo Van Dam and Piti Berimbakti popping into the pits. So still time to play. Just 11 minutes in this 20-minute qualifying session. It's Lamborghini at the top, Lexus in second, and the Lamborghini in third. So the Audis haven't shown their hand as yet. Their best placed car is that one with Steyn Schotthorst in 4th place overall.
So Ezekiel Perez Companc comes into the pits currently quickest by 12 thousandths of a second from the 14 Lexus of Albert Felix da Costa. Track emptying pretty quickly, so everybody who've done maybe 2 or 3 flying laps back into the pits, whether they want to make an engineering change, whether they are prepared to think, well, is it worth putting on another set of tires and having another go, or would just a mechanical or an aerodynamic change maybe be sufficient and keep those fresh tires, those new tires, for when it really matters?
Well, I've just been looking at the new entry this weekend, Audi Sport Slovakia, the son of the Maltarek family, Christian, on board at the moment. He's doing well. He's in 16th place out of 22. He's just over 1.1 seconds down on the ultimate pace and settling in very nicely. We also thank him for having the Maltareks, having a car that's quite different in liveries to all the others. The greys of the Team WRT cars, the Tempto Racing car, Audis, they're also of a grey charcoal hue, and this really, really does stand out, so good to have them on board.
Yes, it's a lot easier to, on the head-on shot in particular, because with the predominance of greys and blacks and whites on numbers of the Audis, it is not always easy to give them identification. There is the quickest car currently. Another set of tyres, just trying to get a look and see whether those are sets that have been run on as they...
Oh, there's been a moment for the Birambakti Ferrari.
Yeah, but I think, where's that coming out of turn 4 into 5, so whether he was trying to get out of the way or whether that was an error, we caught the end of it. But then the second of the Lexus, the 114 Norbert Siedler, it's up to 4th place, and it's within a 1/10.5 of a second of Ezekiel Perez Compact's quickest time. So front 2 rows covered by 0.152 of a second. Could be more competitive, I suppose.
Well, we've had, as you said, John, quite a lot of pit visitors. What do we reckon the 88 Mercedes will rise to? Because at the moment, Michael Meadows only down in 8th place. Has he had a pit stop? No, not yet. He's still going around, but no, he has had a pit stop. So we could have some fresh rubber coming into play. Riding on board, you can see this isn't a serious lap. This is just getting the heat into the tyres. So maybe this is in fact looking through Pity Birambakti's windscreen. 3 wins from the first 4 races in the Pro-Am class, so going very, very well indeed for the Thai driver, whose ambition this year quite clearly is to win that Pro-Am title, and laying it down again this weekend.
Well, it's a good lineup, and Carlo Van Dam in particular is matching Birambakti in terms of giving expertise, advice, and almost sort of coaching the young Thai driver and giving him an opportunity. Well, there's a driver who doesn't really need any coaching whatsoever, Will Stevens, who has really settled into the whole Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championship over the last 2 seasons, and coming away from last weekend, and was he in the previous prototype, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Into a very high downforce prototype, back into his regular seat in the Audi in the GT3 category. So it's a small adjustment with different racetrack, different sort of duration, style, approach. So this is much more, as Marco Alain, the great Finnish rally driver, would say, maximum attack.
Exactly so, and that's what's required to go to the top. We have a new name at the top. It is this name, Will Stevens. So he's gone top by just over a 1/10 of a second. So 1 minute 34.188. Good lap.
And that's the first lap today that has exceeded the best that we saw last evening. So Will Stevens on his 7th lap has now exceeded the best time that was achieved by the 66 Audi, who did 37 laps. Now, he wouldn't have done it on his last of 37 laps, but that's the difference between going out free practice and going into qualifying.
And just to reiterate, if it stays as it is, it means that number 2 Audi would have taken pole for the first race in all 3 rounds so far this year. Started at Zolder, pole. Started off from pole for the first race at Brands Hatch, and tried to do the same again here. But at the moment, bragging rights by a 1/10 of a second. Haven't seen so much yet of the 82 Lamborghini. Looking down the time charts, it's midway in the order, 12th out of 22,
yes.
Improving its speed, but the middle sector not so good. But now's a good time. The track is very quiet indeed. Half the field still having a fresh set of rubber on there, put on in the pit lane. So now is the moment.
Yeah, Lawrence Hazelman's behind the wheel, son of legendary GT driver, touring car driver Twan Hazelman's
gone up to 5th.
Yeah, he did have a spin earlier in the session, then just a quick notification on the timing and scoring. We didn't see it, but the young Belgian or Dutch, I never can make up my mind what he actually is, because of his father being fundamentally Dutch, but I'm not sure.
He's entered as a Dutchman, so we'll go with that.
We'll go with the Dutch license.
So down towards the tail end of the field, car 26, Neil Stevenart, French racer running in the Pro-Am camp. He's 19th out of the 22. I'm sure this is Niels' first visit here to Misano. A technical circuit because 16 turns around just 4.2 kilometres means apart from the sweep down from turn 10 through 2 kinks down to turn 13 that you are twisting pretty much the whole lap.
Originally the racetrack was used a lot in the 80s for single-seater Formula 2 racing, but then when MotoGP was held here, I think they ran the circuit in the opposite direction. So some of the aspects of the circuit, particularly the pit lane exit, is more suitable for running the circuit in the opposite direction. This is a clockwise, previously it ran counterclockwise.
This is always confusing when you look at historical photos and you can't quite work out what is where. I very much remember the Formula 2 races going off in the opposite direction. So where is the change coming from? Halfway down the time charts, 11th place, car number 87 has just set its best first sector, the best middle sector. The 87 car, Nicolo Jaman and Denis Bulatov at the wheel at the moment. Where is that going to shift up the chart? Jaman at the wheel, just waiting for him to complete his lap. This is Neil Stevenart. I don't think we're going to see a huge leap up the order for him. He's in 19th, but it's Jaman who should be making the move. He has made the move to the top of the charts, 1 minute 34.052. So the 87 Acura ASP Mercedes, that's the red one as opposed to their other coloured ones. that's just moved to the top of the chart. It's a great lap by the young Frenchman.
Yeah, just going back to number 82, the Lamborghini of Loris Hazelman's. That lap time that elevated him up very rapidly up into the top 6 has been deleted because of track limits, track limit abuses on the exit of Misano, the left-hand corner onto pit straight. So that time has dropped them all the way back down to 12th position. But Nicolas Jamin did a good job on the 87 Mercedes, the ACA ASP. First time we've seen that car at the sharp end. The next Mercedes down, looking quickly, I think is Michael Meadows in 9th position. So not maybe looking ideal for the Mercedes crews presently, with the exception of Nicolas Jamin in the 87 ASP.
Yeah, well, Maxi Boot won last year with Franck Pereira in a Mercedes, so it can work here. But as you say, first, 9th and 10th in the charts for the Mercedes. So let's look at the order. Jamin from Stevens, Perez Companc in the Lamborghini, Albert Costa in the Lexus, then another Lamborghini in the hands of Christian Engelhardt. So a great mix of cars up at the top of the charts. Josh Cahill bringing up the rear, car number 31, Team Parker Racing Bentley. He's got to be, how far off? He's 3.2 seconds off the ultimate pace. So with the clock counting down to just over 3 minutes to go in this session, only a few more chances for the drivers to try and get it right on the exit of turn 16 to complete their flying laps. As you can see, Audi's a great mix of cars at the top. 4 makes in the top 4 positions, then a bunch of Audis. In fact, still quite a lot of Audis, 15, 16, 17. Just shows how many we have. Car number 21, top car in Pro-Am, and that's the Malcharex on their debut in the championship, so they're going very well in that class.
The number 1 Audi, Alex Ribeiro, is currently down in 9th place. 14 Lexus down in 5th place, all looking in the closing minutes on a track that is looking relatively busy once again, just to find that clear spot as the Lexus gets a personal best in the middle sector. Number 90, Nico Bastia, makes it a Mercedes provisional front row, up into 2nd place, just a 10th of a second away from Nicolas Jamin.
Well, it's good to be watching 114. We've got just over 2 minutes remaining. This is a car that's set going around. It's lying 7th in the charts, but with this lap, if it can be completed without too many mishaps, it should go top. It's Jamin from Meadows from Bastia, 3 Mercedes now at the top of the chart. How do we doubt them, John?
Well, Michael Meadows got that lap in, just was a Mercedes top 3. Suddenly they're dominating the times. The Lexus could be the one that goes quickest of all, the first under the 134 second as it comes across start-finish line. And where is that time?
It goes 3rd, but it's the top 3 cars are now covered by 0.053 of a second. That's less than a blink of an eye. So Jamin from Meadows from Cedar at the moment. And now, where are the Audis going to go? Well, right to the very, very edge of the circuit. If you're Alex Riberas, the number 1 Audi, out beyond the edge of the circuit through turn 16. Others have been pinged for that. We'll have to see if that fate befalls him. But he goes into 2nd place. Now we've got the top 4 cars covered by 0.104 of a second. Michael Meadows, 88, great. We managed to catch the camera onto him. He set the fastest first sector of anybody. Waiting to see how he comes down to Quercia shortly, which is the left-hander. Now he's got through there, and in fact he's going down from turn 10, you see him through the kink at 11, Curvone as it's called, and the wonderful slingshot down through 12, 13, just kinking to the right the whole time, then it all slows down for Caro, turn 14, coming towards that now.
Needs to be careful, just
certainly does, John.
Catching the car, running a little bit wide between turns, turns 14 and 13, so final corner, enough, well, that's penultimate corner now, the final corner. Just needs not to run all 4 wheels over those sort of sleeping policemen. So is this going to be good enough for
has to be in the
position?
Has to be in the 33 to get top.
It is 33.887.
Well, great lap there. The best time by 0.114 of a second, beating his teammate Nico Jamin. Nico Bastian, another teammate. So it's ACA ASP Mercedes at the top. Jerome Polycorn will be delighted. Car number 1, lap 9 cancelled due to track limits. We saw him complete that lap, and that's dropped him down to 10th place. So what you throw away is what you throw away. I mean, all their own fault.
You know, in most cases, it's again track limits on the exit of the final corner onto the pit straight. This is the corner we're watching Jamin come through now. That's on the limit, I would suggest. But when you've done such a major effort to try and get the car up, and then you find you're being pinged, so an improvement for the 54. That's the Emil Frey Jaguar. It's now up into 10th place. Alex Fontana behind the wheel presently. The Q1 is over. It's Mercedes, Audi, Mercedes, Lexus, Lamborghini, Audi, Lexus, Lamborghini, Jaguar.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about the Jaguar so far, but right at the end, still a couple of cars to complete their final flying laps. We've got 3 drivers in the 1 minute 33s, including Alex Ribeira's in by the skin of his teeth, 1 minute 33.999 seconds. But at the moment, Michael Meadows top in the 88 Mercedes, 87 pushed very hard. Nico Jamin waiting for him to complete his flying laps as well. But what a session. It really worked its way slowly to a boil, and then it really delivered. Super close. At the moment, waiting for the final laps to be completed. Less than 9/10 of a second cover the top 14 runners.
So the Lexus is coming in. It's no more available to the team, to the car currently down in, well, it will remain, I suspect, in 8th position, 4th row of the grid. And I mean, it literally was changing almost, not just by the lap, but by the corners. The 87 Mercedes, the car that had the provisional pole position. So sweeps at a turn 14 into the left, 15 then the short run up to the pit lane entrance.
So very tidily done. Again, as we just worth reiterating, it's a very technical circuit. We had a few spinners early on, John. We had quite a few drivers going out over the curbs, most notably at turn 16, the final corner, and having their laps taken away. So all the drivers, their teammates waiting to take over for the second qualifying session will have observed that some fantastic efforts were rubbed out by drivers going out over the curbs. They will endeavour not to do so. As always, it's a quick turnaround for the crews to get their second drivers in for qualifying session number 2. You can see driver 1 talking to driver 2. It's the taller figure of Raffaele Marcello bending down, but his car on provisional pole, well, definite pole for the first race. That's done, but we have to start all over again. Top driver in Pro-Am, Christian Malczarek, so welcome to the championship, 18th overall. And a good run for them there. So I think everybody now back in the pit lane. Weather's still fantastic. There is the rundown, the top half of the grid, top 12 out of 22, and it's Michael Meadows who's taken that pole position. Raffaele Marcello will go out to do his bit, but look how close those times are. 0.3 of a second covering the top 7 cars. Also look at the mix of manufacturers. We've got, of course, those 2 Mercedes at the very front, Alex Ribeira in his Audi on the second row, and another ACA ASP Mercedes in a third. But great to have the Lexuses, John, moving really towards the front end of the field. The best Lamborghini down in 6th place. Good run there from Ezequiel Perez-Company. Quick throughout, and we continue all the way down to the last few cars. Andrew Watson, the Sansalot Racing entry of Neil Stevenart, and the Team Parker Racing Bentley. Just a little bit off the pace. We'll see what their teammates can do. Excuse me, in session number 2. But don't forget, these teams all lost track running last night when the track was very wet indeed. It did dry out later on, but one session effectively rendered useless. And I do believe the weather for the rest of today and for tomorrow should be fine indeed. So any wet weather running they had is actually of no use to them whatsoever. So here we are at the Misano World Circuit. Weather conditions absolutely fantastic here. Looking forward to the first race this evening. But let's go down to the pit lane. The fastest driver of all, ACA ASP Mercedes racer, Michael Meadows with Dakota.
Michael, nice and quick. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, really happy. It's long overdue, to be honest. I thought Brands Hatch we would do it, but here's still good. The car's working quite well here, so hopefully this afternoon or this evening we can turn it into a result.
I bet you were relieved that the conditions on the track weren't as bad as they were yesterday.
Well, yeah, yesterday in the first one we didn't even bother going out because it was just too dangerous. So I was surprised actually. The track's quite slippy today, even though it's warm and and dry. So it caught me out on the first run. Then the second run I adapted and it was much better. So hopefully pass some of that on to Raffaele and he can repeat the same.
So you said the track was quite slippy. Whereabouts slippy?
Just in general, I thought the lap times would be much quicker, like maybe 32s, and we were only high 33s, so it's quite low grip in general. It wasn't one particular area, just 1% in every corner, and it makes up to quite a big difference.
Great, thanks. Let's see what he can do.
So there was Michael Meadows, not unsurprisingly describing the track as very slippery. Of course, John, we mentioned very little rubber left on it this morning after it wasn't just a rain shower, it was a tropical storm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very good effort indeed by Michael Meadows. That time, the best part of half a second, just under half a second quicker than the best we saw last evening. But of course, as Michael Meadows was describing the circuit, it's not that it doesn't have any grip, it just doesn't have that bite that you'd normally expect when you go out on fresh rubber, or maybe in some cases new rubber. So the track, assuming the weather now stays stable for this next session, and there's no chance of any rain at the minute, but principally to stay stable until later this evening and then overnight, the track will eventually improve. The bulk of the running will be done on Pirelli tyres by all the other categories that are here this weekend. So that rubber will go down, the grip will come up, and one would expect in this second qualifying session to see an improvement over the times. Best time 1:33.887 set by Michael Meadows, and I think an outstanding drive by Michael Meadows to give himself that pole position.
I just want to throw
the
something.
first sprint round.
Just want to throw something in the mix. Message at the bottom of the screen. Lap 10 of car number 88. That's the pole qualifying car under investigation. So don't write it down in ink as yet. But as far as we know for now, it's the 88 Mercedes that's taken that pole position from the sister car, number 87.
It doesn't, Bruce, it doesn't say what the investigation refers to.
Indeed.
Normally, if it's a track limit abuse, then that would come up as a track limit abuse. So I just wonder what would be under investigation.
Well, we'll wait and find out. Let you know as soon as we get an answer to that. So as you can see, the wind, a welcome warm breeze here on the Adriatic coast. Obviously very, very different from 24 hours ago. So qualifying session number 1 out of the way. Another 20 minutes of action coming up very soon indeed. Starting at 2:20, it's 2:16 and a half. And a good sight to see these cars in full sunshine. Just worth reiterating, number 87 car has a new lineup this weekend. Nico Jamin stayed on board, but we have a young Russian racer, a 19-year-old Denis Bulatov, who's come across. He's been racing in the SMP Racing Mercedes run by the ACA team in the Endurance Championship, but he's subbing this weekend for Felix Arias. And we'll see how he gets on in this session. But he's not long. He's only this season moved up to GT racing, was racing Renault Clios and small single-seaters before, so he's having to learn and learn fast. But from what we've seen, he's been doing a very good job indeed.
Yes, I mean, he's one of a number of young drivers who you have a single-seater race career in mind. That's what their dream is, and they're not being able to fulfill that for a whole raft of different reasons. And one of the very, I think, suitable options is to come into the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance GT Championships and GT racing in general, because it is just, I think, the best motor racing. Keep saying it every event we go to.
Yeah, but the last event you went to was amazing.
Just how can these events get any better? But the racing is just so close, and the difference between the brands, you can identify a Lamborghini from an Audi, from a Bentley, from a Ferrari, from a Lexus. That's what's important, that you can actually easily visually just say, well, that is the car that I might go down to that showroom and want to buy. Whereas with single-seaters, particularly where they're very regulated by course. So, well, what is that? Now, was that a Porsche by any chance? No, it's a BMW. And it looked like a BMW.
It did, didn't it? Andrew Watts drove it to start with. And that's moving across for the second session, and we'll see how that goes on. It wasn't really at the sharp end. Run by 3Y Technology, going to be taken over by Lucas Moraes, Brazilian driver. So for those who've done the first session, it's their chance to consider life, because their race will be coming up this evening.
Andrew Watson stroking the 2-day growth. He's done his bit for the idiot of the BMW, and again, maybe the layout of Misano isn't going to be quite so appropriate to the strengths of the BMW, so we wait and see whether.
And obviously an unusual thing, John, is that Andrew is driving different makes of cars in the Sprint and the Endurance Championship. Went so strongly, Paul Ricard. Now we're taking a look at a replay coming up. We had a late message about car 88 transgressing by going out beyond the white line, and that's at turn 3, very early in the lap, and this could, John, possibly cost him pole position. We'll have to see. We think that was the moment he set his, or the lap that he set his fastest time. That is the matter under investigation.
I mean, it's up to the stewards to determine if there was.
And his time has now been taken away. There it is, message on the screen. So they deemed all 4 wheels were out beyond the white line. So that great effort that put him on pole by the smallest of margins from his teammate has now been taken away. So the 87 car is now the one that qualified on pole position. So congratulations to Nicolas Jamin. Changed by record book already.
I'm in total agreement with observance of track limits and the penalties that go with it. And because we didn't see it maybe when the time was being set, then to have it then reviewed and taken away is hard. There's nothing Michael Meadows could do. His time is up, and he's got to relate or refer back to his second best lap time, which of course is going to drop him probably outside of the the top 3-4 rows of the grid.
Yeah, had been at the sharp end before he set that lap to improve his position, so he may get away with going back to 4th or 5th on the grid. We'll have to count back and have a look. But it's the turn with the teammates now. Drivers number 2 in the two-driver pairings. Good to see the Jaguar out there. We saw some good form from that at Brands Hatch, so maybe that will carry on here. 20 minutes qualifying session. The drivers will have observed where their teammates had been running out beyond the white lines, and they will have to endeavour to stay within them, because it can really bite you very hard indeed. All your endeavours go to waste if you go out beyond. The drivers know that, and they'll just have to focus. So just as we had in the first session, John, it's drivers out just getting some heat in their tyres and finding, as Michael Meadows described, the track as being very slippery all around the lap, and they too will be hoping for a bit more grip, but they'll find there is less than they were looking for so far.
So it's all about getting some heat into the tyres. You can see there's one way of trying to do it. You weave around, you try and put a little bit of load into the carcass of the tyre, not just the surface of the tyre, as surface temperature in itself isn't the whole deal. You have to get the temperature through the carcass and the surface. So a little Larry exit coming on to the start-finish straight. Sheldon van der Linde down into turn 1. So have to keep an eye on the number 17 Audi and see where he goes. Certainly committed, one has to say. There's not a lot left on the table. Getting past one of the Mercedes, finding maybe slightly compromised. So watch again as he comes through onto the start-finish straight. Wow! Well, great looking. Whether it's legal or not, another matter. So he's fastest overall in Sector 1, but that's the first car effectively to come across the start-finish line to begin a qualifying lap.
Well, spectacular shots, a wonderful bit of sideways motoring, but he does need to be further to left in those images out of turn 16 if he wants to keep his times. This wouldn't have been his quickest time anyway. We'll feel the drivers will build up through the course of this 20-minute second qualifying session, but Sheldon van der Linde, certainly in terms of artistic merit, you'd give him a 10 for that wonderful slide out of the final corner. Great adjustment, bit of sideways action. He wants to be keeping the cars in the straight line. And just to reiterate, the target time, well, the best time we had was taken away, yes, in the first qualifying session, but we do know you're going to have to be down into the 1 minute 33. The best time was a 1 minute 33.887 seconds, and the rival was very close indeed. Again, that's to a driver off the edge of the circuit. That's a driver who's got 2 purple times, Sheldon van der Linde, but I feel the stewards will be looking at that sort of performance, and again running out beyond the edge of the circuit. So I think number 17's times will be starting to be removed. 21, 1 and 3 all being warned for track limits. That's the Audi Sport Slovakia, the newcomer, now in the hands of the father, Jurko Malczarek. He's one of the people being warned.
So quickest lap, first flying lap, as we look at Raffaele Marcello in the car that we thought was going to be the pole sitter. With Michael Meadows, that time now has been deleted, so Raffaele Marcello will go out and try and claim what he knows. He's got a quick car, already showing quickest overall in Sector 1. And further through the field, seeing Christopher Meeson, the number 1 Audi, is fastest overall in Sector 2. I mean, it's changing by the sector. Number 82, Frank Pereira in the Lamborghini, fastest overall Sector 1. 66, Kevin van der Linde is now gone, quickest overall in 134.5. Still best part of half a second or more away from what we saw, albeit that was a time that was deleted. Back with Marcello, down the back straight through these curves, absolutely flat out. But here you get into a slightly trickier situation. How long can you keep it open before you've got to get out? And also not get the car out. Just see how wide Raffaele Marcello ran into 14, oversteering the exit of 14, then through the 15. Oh, you hear just the bottom of the car grinding out on those curves. Then hard on the brakes. Then this is the corner that's been catching out so many drivers. Well, the camera breakup couldn't quite tell me whether he had gone beyond the limits or not. Quickest overall, 133.6.
If you're going to stick it on top, do it by a big margin, not a few tenths. It's nearly 7/10 of a second. We just had 19 Lamborghini going up to, well, he went up into first, it's just dropped a second and now had its best time. So it's fallen down. It's now from Pereira, his Lamborghini, in second place. Quarter of a second down on that fantastic lap from the 88 Mercedes. So getting a bit of space on the track. Number 1, and that is Chris Vermees, third fastest at the moment. He's 4/10 of a second off the ultimate pace, and then Marcus Winkelhock just bangs in a quick time to go 4th. Very close, but that 1/4 of a second margin by Raffaele Marciello is looking very good indeed. His time 2/10 of a second and more quicker than the best in qualifying session 1.
It's the obvious thing to say, but on a tight circuit, 4.2 kilometers, 16 corners, the key to your lap will be getting the clear lap, and then we saw the Audi having to struggle getting past some of those that have been just beginning coming out of the pits, for example, or finishing a lap, so they're not necessarily running at maximum pace. But Raffaele Marciello's fastest lap, 1:33.6, 1/4 of a second quicker than Frank Pereira. And Vincent Voss looking intently at his man, and there is Dries van Voor in the number 2. Dries van Voor currently is down in 6th position. Personal best, 1st and 2nd sector. Whoa, Dries van Voor! You had to lose it this time. There was no way you're going to get that one back. But I mean, you've got to give him maximum points for entertainment. So he's lost that lap. He's probably rubbished the tyres, and the lap he's gone on to would be probably pretty much rubbish as well.
Yeah, well, the team have to thank him coming out of turn 15 when he spun. He managed to collect it, which is some bonus points. He also managed not to take out one of his teammates, the number 17 WRT Audi, was next down the track with Sheldon van der Linde at the wheel. So it could have been an expensive, embarrassing moment, but as it was collected.
Car 21, 1 and 3 must respect track limits at turn 3. Car 19, lap 2 cancelled, track limits at turn 3.
Well, the Lamborghini we're looking at the moment seems to have kept it on the straight and narrow, and going very well indeed in the hands of Frank Pereira, 2nd fastest. And looking at the moment, now we're looking quickly at the 63 car, the sister car, but that's further down the order. Mirko Bortolotti, 12th out of 22. And set to vault up the order. Needs to get below 1:33.621 seconds. He should, if he gets close, if he gets within a 10th, he'll move up into 2nd place. Let's have a look. They're looking on from the garage.
Look good.
Russell Racing Team looks very strong. Goes into
11th position.
He improved his time, but not his position. He went up 1 place, but he's almost a second down. So more to be found. Still not quite on the button yet this year, the Lamborghini.
Well, it's saying that the 82 Lamborghini Frank Pereira is 2nd quickest.
Yeah, no, sorry, I meant the 63 Lamborghini here. And of course, we've got 4 of them in the field.
Fastest 2nd sector time for the Frenchman in the 82 Lamborghini. So waiting to see his conclusion. Here he comes now, final or penultimate corner into the turn 16. Misano, watch the exit, don't run too far wide, don't get too greedy. I mean, that's about what most people are doing. One has to wait and see where that's going to see an improvement or not. 1:33.823.
He shaved
improvement, but not in position.
Yeah, again, the middle sector has been the really strong sector. That's the one with the run out of turn 10 all the way down that pink back straight. That is where the Lamborghini seems to work best. Maybe it's on a low downforce setup and struggles on the twistier parts of the circuit. Still, Raffaele Marciello, 1:33.621 seconds. We've still got more than half of this 20-minute session remaining.
Stefano Telli not on camera right now. That's the 19 Lamborghini. His lap time has been cancelled for track limits in turn 3. Car 17, Belgian Audi team, Stuart Leonard, Sheldon van der Linde. That cancelled because of circuit at turn 8. I mean, so many cars, so many drivers are having time cancelled.
Yeah, it looks like
the message will get through.
Eventually. Drip, drip, drip. The water torture treatment, it will get through to them. But 19 Lamborghini, 6th place in the hands of Andrea Caldarelli, bouncing towards the edge of the circuit, not beyond. And as in the first session, it's the 3Y Technology BMW that's bringing up the rear of the field. Lucas Morais down in 22nd position. I don't think there'll be an improvement from 6th place for Caldarelli. No, he's about, he's a whisker off his very best pace.
Yes, and
all but matched it.
I think that time would have been looked at because he was well and truly wide. 87 Mercedes currently down in 13th place, Dennis Bulabov. Personal best, 1st sector, overall quickest 2nd sector. So this is the car that has now won the pole position for the first of the 2 races. Comes out cleanly, good exit.
Very tidy.
Not sliding, not riding the curb. So that might just see
7th place.
That's disappointing final sector.
Well, maybe the fact we saw him being so neat meant he was just a little bit slower, therefore able to keep it on the circuit. But having just moved across really from one car, well, that's just the most epic save there from Dries van Voor. Out wide of it, overturned the curves at turn 15 out of 16. The teammate goes past the 17 Audi, and then, as if nothing had happened, he's facing the right way again.
He did a good job, because that could have been all turning southwards. So a bit of fuel going in for the number one. That's Christopher Mies's car. So the rear lid is lifted while they're checking. Under the lid, back to Raffaele Marciello. Has to make a little cut away from the apex. No, I beg your pardon, this is the 35.
That's Korniev,
yes.
Alexei Korniev, the Russian the Russian duo in it, Korniev and the SMP Racing, run by Akar ASP, Vladimir Atoev. They had a pretty good run, the opening round of the championship at Zolder. And distinctive with those red flashes up over the top, red, blue and white. So another good lap from him in the first part of the lap. Majority of the cars are in the pits at the moment. We had this in the first session. A lot more come out with about 5 or 6 minutes remaining, go out for 2 or 3 flying laps to see if they can improve. But at the moment, driver out on the track with nobody around him. But of course, he's eschewed that moment and come into the pit lane following the example of all the others. BMW from 3 White Technology, that's going just now onto the back straight with lots of space around it. It's made its pit stop, and Lucas Moraes will have space to go and play, but he needs to find 3 seconds to get up to the sharp end of the field.
So it's all going to start very shortly. Everybody back in the pits, I think. Is there one car? There are 2 cars. Christopher Mies is one of them. And Dennis Bilitov is the other. That both appear to be currently on track. No doubt they'll be coming into the pit lane as they go to work on the 63 Lamborghini. One set comes off. Let me just get a glimpse of these tyres to see if these are actually fresh or new tyres that are going on to the 63 Lamborghini. So it looks like there's also a mechanical adjustment possibly being made. Whether that's a damper, a shock absorber adjustment, whether they're trying to do something on the rear roll bars. Not an awful lot more you can do. As the Parker Bentley sits waiting for its opportunity to get back out on track as well.
So you can imagine it's going to be a flurry. 7.5 minutes remaining in this 20-minute session. The bragging rights at the moment with the 88 Mercedes. This 88 Mercedes, Raffaele Marciello, sort of came into the pits a bit ahead of his rivals, and now could at least on this lap benefit from clear track. So at the top of the pile, the example he needs to set is staying within the white lines that demarcate what is the circuit and what lies out beyond. We see him there using just the right amount.
Well, Raffaele is, always exciting to watch. He's totally and utterly committed. So goes into turn 8, this long left-hand corner again. The corner, if you run that little bit too wide in the exit, that will be noted. And then into these 2 corners that lead turn 9, and then the second part, turn 10, which you're now running through onto the back straight, and then it's all the way down through Cavoni, and then the second part then into turn 13, and that's when you get to 13, that's where you've got to make your decision. Where do I get off the throttle and onto the brakes? Well, there you see it. Fastest overall, sector 1, sector 2 for the Italian. Into turn 14, just keep the back down to this, basically balancing the throttle and the steering. Again, you can hear the car just running over that curb. So it looks pretty clean as you come into the final turn. What will Raffaele Marciello do without running over the curb? And that's about as close as you'd want to do. That might be a small, it is 133.212, almost 4/10 of a second up on this previous provisional pole time.
Just as he did that, Dries van Tor had moments before just moved up into second place, just under half a second. Well, got very close to his time, but obviously then Marciello moved the target further forward to 1 minute 33.212 seconds. Christopher Mies, number 1 car, we saw that in the pit lane. Fast, his fastest first sector, the fastest middle sector, a very, very tidy run through the final corner. Will this be going to the top of the charts? Chris Mies into second place, just 1/10 of a second down on Raffaele Marciello. So it's closing right up. The 17 Audi yet to set a really fast time. Sheldon van der Linde down in 13th position out of 22. He's a second and a bit down. Oh, that's out and beyond.
Again, I don't want to give the commentators curse every time a driver runs wide, but it's that kind of exit where you're slightly sloppy and not trying to check the car. And most likely, if that's not an improvement, well, the time will be deleted.
Yeah, well, the time's taken him up into 3rd in the chart, so it's Mercedes from 2 Audis. In fact, Mercedes from 3 Audis, 1:17 and 2 are the Audis, and the times are going to change some more because Franck Pereira's just set the fastest middle sector of anybody. The lap split into 3, and traditionally we've seen the Lamborghinis very good in the middle sector, and indeed that is what Franck Pereira is doing this time around. Does he improve? Waiting for him to come and to the end of the lap. He's down
second place,
up into second place. So he's had a better end to the lap as well. So he's just under a tenth of a second down on Marcello.
But car 17, Sheldon van der Linde, lap 6 cancelled. Track limits at turn 3.
It's thrown it away. The life's getting out of the tyres. It's dropped into 13th out of 22 positions.
But Kelvin van der Linde in the number 66 Audi, currently 5th. Fastest sector, first sector overall. Waiting to see what happens in second sector. Can he maintain that purple, as we see it in our timing and scoring? Green is a personal best. Purple is fastest overall for that sector. So the 66 Audi on its way. Kelvin van der Linde. Not a purple, but it's still a good time, but way down on what might be considered to be the optimum for that sector.
I just want to highlight that Lucas Moraes got into the top 20. We've been talking about the BMW being slow, so it's now just gone back down to 21st. So even at the back, the drivers continue to improve their times. Out at the back on his own is Jirko Malčarek, the father of the Slovakian duo. He is 3 and a bit seconds down on the ultimate pace as he tries to wind his way up onto the pace. Now, who's going really well at the moment? Raffaele Marciello, lapping consistently in the 1 minute 33s, which are really, it's the chagrin of all those behind. But he's now got Franck Pereira in the 19. Here is 19 going even faster on the next lap. After racing Lamborghini down by 0.089 of a second, so not very much at all. This looks like an improvement coming the way. Once you've done the first 3/4 of the lap, staying within the confines of the circuit, you do not want to blow it through turn 14. Going towards the end of the lap now. Target time, just to reiterate, 1 minute 33.212. That was sort of okay through turn 15, a little bit wide now. Turn 16, a key to so many laps. We think that's probably within the realms or thereabouts.
I think you're going to get away with that. So looking to see if there's any improvement. Yes, there is. Up to, I was going to say up to, but it was up to 7th in the lap, and blink of an eye down to 8th. Because 17 is up to 5th place, 25. That's Christopher Hasse up to 6th place. So in the space of literally coming across the line, positions you've gained have been negated. Back to the 63, Mirko Bortolotti. Not really having the kind of qualifying, currently down in 14th place. Personal best, first and second sector for Mirko Bortolotti. But consider back 1 year ago, we were always talking about that particular Lamborghini dominating qualifying and frequently dominating in the race.
Turn 3 seems to be the corner where the most drivers are being pinged. Number 17 driver thereof just been pinged for that, for going beyond. That's Sheldon van der Linde. We saw him do it. Car number 90 has also been pulled back. Jack Manchester. So the young Brit losing his best time, and that puts him down to 16th position.
Mirko Bortolotti onto the second row, the grid, 4th quickest, 1:35.5. That's the best time that car's had in this session. 1 minute and 30 odd plus seconds remaining. Back to the 26 Audi. Marcus Winkelhock. Where are you, Marcus?
He's 11th. He's halfway down the grid, leading the Pro-Am class. So going well. In fact, he's not so long ago when I looked, he was up in about 6th position, but it shows how constantly drivers are going faster and faster. Almost into the final minute. This looks like another good lap from Vinky. He 10th of a second gain, he gave away several positions, so he goes up 3 positions. So well done indeed. So stretches the advantage in the Pro-Am class of this race. Sharing, just to reiterate, with Niels Stevenart. So good job. 0.6 of a second down on provisional pole. Still, as we go into the final minute, in the hands of the 88 Mercedes, the car that could have been on pole for the race 1, but of course exceeded track limits and lost that position.
Marcus Winkelhock coming through turn 4, turn 5. Car slid very wide, almost like the rear had given up, and then he managed to check it, get it back into position 63, still not giving up. So Mirko Bortolotti doing all that he can, currently 4th quickest personal best in the middle sector. A reasonably good time in the first sector, but he needs something special. He's backed out of it now, so he's going to have one more go. 20 seconds remaining, he'll come across the start-finish line with plenty of time. So get a good, strong drive, no slide on the exit. Coming across start-finish line, and he's got just about 10 seconds remaining. This is going to be obviously his final opportunity.
Yeah, I think about 4 other drivers, 3 or 4 other drivers also got across the line before the checkered flag was waved. The first car not to do so is Jirko Malčarek. He has finished his session in 22nd out of 22 positions. Mirko Bortolotti, this is his opportunity. He's fourth fastest at the moment, just under 4/10 of a second down on provisional pole set to the 88 Mercedes. That will not respond because that is sitting in the pits.
Christopher Haase currently down in 8th place, so makes his final crossing of the line before, and he's down to 9th place.
Yeah,
in fact,
just had an improvement from the 66 attempt to Racing Audi. That was in the hands of Kelvin van der Linde. He moves up into 6th position, so 25 down to 7th. You can see 007 on the windscreen. That's the positional indicator. You just get the feeling the session is winding down. Quite a few of the drivers going into the pits, but we still have the 88 Mercedes on provisional pole position by 0.089 of a second. Don't forget, though, we still have 4 cars crossing the finishing line. Number 87 just flashed by in the hands of Denis Bulatov. Dragooning this weekend at short notice. He has finished around mid-grid, 12th position, so settling in very well with the team he knows and races for in the Blancpain Endurance Series. The number 14 Lexus down towards the tail of the field, unfortunately. That is down in 19th position. So that's
and the sister car, Stefano Telli, all the way down in 16th. In this session, both Lexus seem not to have been able to carry forward the performances that they had in Q1, so they're going to be not particularly happy starting so far down the field. It's difficult when you've got a very compacted field as we're going to have here tomorrow for this particular qualifying session. Where are you going to make your pass? Where do you try and pass without having contact with a competitor? How do you make a pass and not abuse track limits? Not going to be an easy 1 hour for any one of these 22 teams, 22 drivers.
It certainly isn't. So 88 has the pole position that it lost for race 1. It has it for race 2. So Raffaele Marcello by 0.089 of a second, so less than a tenth of a second, with his best lap of 1 minute 33.212 seconds. And again, the Lexus went well early on and slid down through the course of the 20-minute session. So they're still on a learning odyssey, aren't they, John?
Yes, I mean, it's particularly here with track conditions. It is sort of a moving playing field, if you want to describe it as such, because the track will be getting fundamentally better. It's also, of course, we're coming now into the heat of this Saturday afternoon. So that has another bearing on how the track is almost best described as being a living entity. It changes constantly, and sometimes you end up chasing the track, and then you get lost, because if you stick to a plan and do what you want to do rather than chasing the track, often you're better off.
So there we have the Mercedes at the top of the chart. 2 poles in 2 qualifying sessions for the German mark. 1 minute 33.212 seconds. Franck Pereira chased very hard in his Lamborghini. Didn't quite topple it. And Christopher Mies waving the flag for Audi in 3rd place. Then a little bit of a gap back to Mirko Bortolotti. Kelvin van der Linde 5th faster. And Dries van Tor ended up 6th. You do wonder, without that half spin out of turn 15, where he would have put that number 2 Audi that seems to have been such a useful tool when it comes to qualifying this year. Kessel Racing Ferrari 2nd ranked in the Pro-Am class in 13th place overall. Carlo Van Dam doing a great job, but the Pro-Am pole in 10th overall went to Marcus Winkelhock. As you can see, just under 2 seconds, covering just the top 20, almost covered by 2 seconds. But down towards the rear, the Bentley, the BMW, and the Audi Sport Slovakia bringing up the rear, the bottom 3 positions. Very, very tight at the top. So we're set fair for 2 races. We're looking forward to fine conditions this evening as day starts to wind down into evening, and then tomorrow conditions probably more like they are now when we come out to play again for the 2nd of the 2 races here this weekend at the Misano World Circuit for the 3rd round of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. So John, we had sessions where the white lines around the circuit were almost as important as the circuit itself.
Yes, track limits fundamentally have dominated qualifying, and there's actually some work being carried out on the final turn. Those 3 curbs, some cars have been hitting them aggressively. Clearly there may be a little bit of damage. That's what we're seeing. Engineers, marshals checking out. We don't need any of those becoming loose, becoming a hazard. But that's what we've got today at Misano. It's an absolutely glorious day. Thank goodness we got this breeze, and it doesn't really affect the cars. The wind doesn't have much bearing on effect into a corner or mid-straight. Just a cooling breeze, just topping off what would be otherwise a screamingly hot day.
Yeah, no, wonderful, wonderful conditions. Certainly last night we couldn't be sure how they would be. So here is the championship as it stands. Stuart Leonard out top on his own, then Kelvin van der Linde and Stein Schotthorst just a blink of an eye behind. Alex Riberas, who partners Christopher Meeson, the number 1 Audi, in 3rd place. As you can see, it's super close. So what is important in this championship, John, is consistency. One little slip up and it could really undo, in any of these races, a lot of the good work you put in the previous rounds. But as you can see, so super close. 10 points covering the top 6 positions. It's nothing.
It's close, and again, this weekend, the layout of the circuit will pay dividends for those that stay out of trouble, basically.
So, wonderful conditions here at the Misano World Circuit. Let's take a look back at the highlights of the qualifying sessions. Lamborghini trying to do very well indeed on home ground. The 63 car assaulting the curve down to turn 16, the final corner. Not the only driver to do that by some measure. Turn 3 was another corner in which the drivers kept on running wide, and a lot of them had their times taken away. The warnings were there, it's absolutely clear. We did have a few spins as well. The circuit very green after heavy overnight rain, and the 25 Audi from Sansalot Racing going for that spin in the hands of Simon Gachet. Lexuses started to show some increasingly good speed, but the 87 Mercedes came away for pole for the first of the race. But in race number 2, it was Raffaele Marciello who delivered, and in great style, the 88 car on pole for race 2. It's the save of the day. That was from Dries van Tor. He saw an awful lot of the barriers before he got his Audi straight again. And importantly, his teammate in the number 17 Audi got by, didn't get caught in the incident. So a real mix of manufacturers at the top of the grids for both of the races. And I would say we're set fair for some fantastic racing.